can get help with whatever, depending on the price. How do I break out of transactional-based relationships?
So I can get help depending on the price. And that's fascinating, right? Like I can help other people. Therefore I'm buying their love, right? So if I were to pay for this person's rent for a month, that shows how loving I am. Or if I buy this trinket for someone, it becomes transactional love. But of course, love isn't transactional, it's transcendent. And yet we're constantly doing this. There are ways, specifically like Mary, you can turn a relationship into a transaction. In fact, that's what our last book was about. Love people, use things, right?
Loved it, yeah.
And instead of the opposite, what we're doing is we're using people. And one way to do that is to treat relationships transactionally. And now there's a part of it where that is required, right? If I am going into a restaurant and I want to buy some food, there is a transaction that takes place. But it doesn't mean that I have to be unloving to the person there in front of me. I can be loving to them regardless of whether or not there's a transaction that's about to occur. So a transaction can happen and love can happen. The problem is we conflate the two.
Yeah. And I noticed that over the last 20 years with my students, man, the work world is all about networking now. What can this relationship get for me?
Yeah.
And what can that relationship do for me so that I can get that relationship, so I can get that job? And we have ROI'd every human connection. And I think that's a dangerous, dangerous place to be. I have to be able to love and serve people because it's the right thing to do. Going back to your analogy, I can lovingly and with dignity and respect tell somebody, dude, you totally blew my meal at this restaurant, right? Like, this isn't what I ordered. It's not even cooked. Like, I'm paying you good money. Like, but I can do that with dignity, and I can do that with respect and kindness, and I can not be like, hey, right? Because that's about my ego, and that's about. But I think it's circling back to this was hard. I forgive for me. Yeah. That's me taking a brick out of my back. I'm going to choose to not carry this thing, your stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to carry it for you.
Right.
I'm going to choose to not let you circulate around my thoughts day after day, night after night. That's a choice I am going to choose to make. I am going to forgive for me. I'm going to serve. You need things, and I've found that I've got a particular thing that can meet a need. I've got money that I can donate. I've got an ability to speak that I can do for free. I'll do some things, but I ultimately have to know that service is going to be it's going to keep me whole and keep me well. So I'm going to continue to serve because it's right. If I make my identity about trying to fill everybody else's needs, then that is nothing. That's not service. That's I'm using you as a I use you as a tool to make me feel better about myself.
Yeah,
right?
and that becomes a different type of transaction. And so one of the things that we often...
You become a vampire, right?
Yeah, parasite.
I'm going to take
sorts.
your soul so it makes me feel better, right?
Yeah.
And going all the way back to first thing, I'm going to take your autonomy by telling you will always be the worst thing you ever did. You will always be the worst thing that ever happened to you. You're always going to be an ex-survivor of something. You can never grow out of this, and so I've got to come save you.
You're a victim, and I can save you.
Forever. That's all you will ever be, so you need an entity. You need a this or a that to come help you out of your thing, because all you will ever be is a fill-in-the-blank survivor. And I'm stealing that from you to prop up my thing, instead of coming and saying, you were abused and that shouldn't have happened. Or looking at you and saying, your dad should have loved you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And that service doesn't have
next,
that service doesn't have an expectation, and I think that's the difference. A transaction has an expectation.
That's right.
I gave you $10, you gave me my burrito.
Yeah.
That's the transaction, right? Yeah. And that opens up space. If I want, I can be loving that person. I can be mean. I can be spiteful. I can be arrogant, or I can serve someone without any expectation of getting something back. And that's how you remove the transaction from the relationship. There's no ledger in the relationship. I'm giving to you. If you give to me, wonderful, but there's no expectation here. I don't need that in order to be complete. I don't need it for our relationship to be, quote, improved, right? I can serve other people without needing to get anything back for it.
Yeah, this makes me, it's just like conjuring all of these Netflix things that I've watched where people take advantage of other people. And it all has to do with money, and it all has to do with transactions. And they do exactly what you were talking about, John. They're like, you are the worst thing you've ever done. I'm going to pull you out of that. But in order to do that, I need you to find out find a way to give me $40,000. I mean, there is some crazy stories out there. Like there's one called The Tinder Swindler. It's like a documentary.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah. And it's just like, you could tell that this man essentially was, finding his own self-worth through the abuse of these relationships that he was starting. But, whenever, like, I look at from the outside looking in, it's easy to be like, why are you such an idiot? Like, why in the world would you? I wouldn't do that, know? Because, I would, I tell myself, like, if all of a sudden my relationship with someone started to become all about the transactions, specifically monetary transactions, like, red flags are going to go off in my head. But man, when you're dealing with that emotion of love or lust or whatever it is, infatuation, those alarm systems can be shut down a little bit. Yeah.
There are way fewer red flags than we like to think, right? Way few. I was born and raised. I lived most of my life in Texas, and just if something goes down, dude, I've got and I used to think, no, you won't. No, you won't. You know what I mean? I've been to the scenes after it goes down. You won't. You know what I mean? But you don't know. You're like, shoot, man. If that girl started talking to me like that, you know what I would say? Nothing. You'd say absolutely nothing.
I wish Will Smith would slap me on stage.
Right.
Yeah. You wouldn't have done anything either.
Absolutely nothing. You want to know? You see, dude. It's like, that may have been the most one of the most beautiful pictures of poise I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Ever.
Yes. Totally agree.
You want to know what a soul at peace looks like? Chris Rock.
Yeah. After getting slapped. Yeah. That's
dude, I remember, like, that was I know y'all probably talked about this before.
Sure.
But
a little bit.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about what Will's working through, but I just remember seeing that thinking, that's how you do that.
Yeah.
Like, you stand there and smile and say, we'll go to break. And like, there's no bigger flex to me there. Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. There's something about, my ego, my worth, my whatever comes next isn't dependent on like all the cameras, and it's not dependent on that.
Did you enjoy this standalone Patreon highlight? If so, you can listen to full episodes of the Minimalist Private Podcast, available exclusively on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/theminimalists or click the link in the description. Your support keeps our podcast and YouTube channel 100% advertisement free.